This is Sarah Kirkish. I just want to welcome everybody and thank you for joining us this evening for our Misty Fjords 5-day trip launch event. This is going to be this is our second live trip launch event. We had one last week, and so we're having people join us again. This is our 5-day trip. It's going to be May 11th through the 15th this year, and then it's going to be in May 8th through the 12th in 2024. Just as a couple housekeeping items, everybody started muted and videos off. This is so we can stay in focus mode for Christine's presentation. You should be seeing her screen sharing at this point with her lovely pictures of Misty Fjords. We're going to be doing a couple things where first we're going to have Christine and Jeffrey give their presentation. We're going to have a couple polls where we can ask people questions to participate. And then if you have any questions, please just type them into the chat room. At about 1:30, we'll open it up to questions. And then if you want to stay on after the official meeting has finished, we're going to open up for some social time here. And people can turn their videos on and say hi to Jeffrey and Christine. So with that, I'm going to open up the first poll where we're going to ask people, where are you calling from or participating from? So I'm going to open that up. Feel free to just vote in. And while we're doing that and getting your inputs, Jeffrey and Christine, why don't you introduce yourselves?
Great. Thanks, Sarah. We're Jeffrey and Christine, obviously, and we operate the David B, which I'm sure all of you know if you're here. We used to travel around the country in the wintertime and do talks kind of like this. We'd stay with people who'd been on the boat and do talks at libraries and things like that. And we ended up after COVID, now everybody knows how to use Zoom, and so this is kind of the perfect thing. And then this year we decided to add a couple of these trips that are different than what we've been doing in the past. And so we thought we would do these trip launch things, and so that's why we're here doing this.
Yeah, so thank you for joining us for your interest in our 5-day trip around, we're going to try to pronounce this right, Revillagigedo Island, and which is where Ketchikan is located, and also Misty Fjords National Monument, which is part of the Tongass National Forest. We
had a little discussion prior to the start of this where we all had to try to pronounce it, just so you know. So I even think there are people who live in Ketchikan who don't know how to pronounce the island's name.
Yeah. Well, let's before you get started, I just wanted to close out the survey. We got a kind of we had about half of us did participate. We've got the Pacific Northwest, half of the participants are calling from there, and then we've got West Coast and Northeast. So that's about what we had last time. But thank you so much for participating in our poll. And Christine, go on ahead and share with us your presentation.
Yeah, so like we did with our talk last week, we kind of wanted to dial in where Ketchikan is and where this trip is going to start from. So we're starting here in, I need to close up there. We're starting here in the northern part of North America, and we're going to move into we're going to move down into the Tongass National Forest in Southeast Alaska. So a big chunk of the state or big chunk of Southeast Alaska is part of the Tongass National Forest. And if you look down at the lower part of the screen there, you'll see Ketchikan. And if you look closely, you'll see that Ketchikan is on an island. And so this trip is going to go all the way around that island. And you can see it there a little bit more.
This is Revillagigedo Island, and to the right hand or east side, that whole stretch along there is the Misty Fjords National Monument. So in this trip, we start out from Ketchikan, and we head out into this long fjord that's called Boca de Quadra. There are only a couple shallow spots that are worth anchoring in that. And so we'll do some exploring down there and end up for the evening in one of those shallow spots. And we've explored there a little bit. It's got some good hiking kinds of spots, like beach walk kind of things, and that kind of thing. That's what we're headed there for. But to go back, this is us leaving Ketchikan. What's kind of interesting is you go from the very industrial Ketchikan. Here's a bunch of log broncs along the side, and out into the wilds where you often see things like Dall's porpoises.
And then we'll head into some of the more wild areas, and we often see things like bald eagles in there. And to get to where Jeffrey was talking about the beach walks, here's a picture of our skiff. We call it Skiffiosaurus, and the David B in the background. And you can see this nice spot to go for a walk here in that Boca de Quadra area.
If you're not familiar with our equipment on board the boat, everybody gives their shoe or boot size to us ahead of time. And then we have a whole set of big rubber boots for everybody to wear. So when you see a spot that looks all muddy like that, that's actually a great spot to go exploring, because you can tromp through the tide flats and the mud and whatnot. And
great
into
way
spots
to-
like
Yeah.
this right here.
Yeah, so a bunch of in that early spring, most of us are in the Pacific Northwest are familiar with skunk cabbage, and so there's a lovely little patch of skunk cabbage that we did on that walk, went to on that walk. And I'll go back an image so that you can see the boots. Actually, you can't quite see their
Can't quite
boots,
see them in
but
there,
yeah,
but-
they're wearing
you can
their
see the
rubber
mud.
boots. Yeah. And so the next day, we're gonna head up to Misty Fjords proper and go into Rudyard Bay, and there's Punch Bowl Cove Trail as well. So here's the route that we'll take. It's that red line, and you can see we'll come out, go around, and go into Beam Canal, which is that long body of water, and then we'll take a right into Rudyard Bay. And along the way, there's some interesting things to see there, such as New Eddystone Rock, which is, if I remember this right, it is a type of volcanic plug, was it?
I think so.
And somehow it is missed being ground down by the glaciers that had gone through there. So it's a really interesting rock just sticking out in the middle of the channel there.
I really like that previous picture that's in black and white. So much of that Misty Fjords area is perfect for black and white. We were actually talking about this earlier, and I think it's like Wizard of Oz, like all of the area around Ketchikan could be the area before they get to Oz, where things turn nice colors.
But if you're interested in seeing it in color,
Yeah.
Here it is. Here it is in color. Yeah, and it just sticks right up, and it's covered with trees, and it's just it's a really interesting piece of geology. And then getting into Rudyard Bay, it's a glacially carved canyon and made out of a type of granite called tonalite.
That time of year, the springtime, there's lots of runoff from the snow melt up high, and it is often kind of misty and rainy, and so there is a lot of waterfall action going on. A lot of places that later in the season might not have as much water coming down are going really big at that time of year, so it's pretty nice.
And this was also in Rudyard, and a couple of killer whales that surprised us. We were kind of heading into the bay, and it was a kind of a shock that they'd come right up next to the boat and swam past us, and then they just kept on going. So that's one of the really exciting things about traveling on the David B, is that so often there are things that you don't expect that just pop up.
Then we also, with all that kind of wildlife, because we aren't on a schedule, we can stop and we can decide if we want to keep on they were going the opposite direction. We turned around, we spent half an hour or more staying with them. And because we aren't on a schedule and we, have a small group, we're able to do kind of what we want to do.
Yeah, and Rudyard Bay has two arms in it. One is Punchbowl Cove, and the other one is this unnamed little arm that we found to be a really lovely anchorage, and then a really great place to go for a little skiff ride to kind of see what it looks like around there. And here you can see this is a high tide. There's a lot of water right up to the grass. And there's a big, huge cliff face up there that's really pretty. And yeah, real nice reflections as well. And it can also be a really good place for spotting bears. May is a good time to see brown bears and black bears. Down here, this picture was a mother and a couple of her cubs in, I think it was in the morning they'd come down, but yeah, right at high tide. And this is taken from the boat.
The bears in this area, in Southeast in general, in the springtime, often come down to the beach to eat the grasses, to eat the sedge grass that's at the shore. And that's good for us because that brings them out to where they're visible like this, out in the grass. And later at times during the season, there are times where they're much more likely to be up in the high country or back in the forest, up the streams and stuff. But at this time of year, it's nice because they come out for the sedge grass, and they also come out for the clams on the mud flats and stuff. So they're out where we can see them, and they're easier to find oftentimes.
The other little arm in Rudyard is Punchbowl Cove, and it has a trail that's accessible to us. And it's kind of a fun little place to go explore just what the forest feels like, which is wet because it's a rainforest. And there's lots of interesting plants to look at, different ferns, different trees, lots of plants. Early May, we start to see a lot more wildflowers coming in. There's a beautiful stream here. We'll see some Devil's Club.
This actually, the Devil's Club in that area will, at that time of year, will just be starting to leaf out.
So see it when
that
it's small.
picture
Yeah.
was from one of the times we explored there later in the summer, before it actually started after it had leafed out. But
yeah, and this picture was taken this year about the same time, and this is a gold thread, and one of my favorite small flowers. And what I like about this hike is that not only do you see small plants that you kind of have to get down and look for, but you also have this amazing feeling of being in an ancient forest. So you look up and you just see those beautiful tall trees. And this is Punchbowl Lake, and it's right at the top of that hike. And that lake goes back a ways. There's a Forest Service cabin. We've seen other things there, lots of frogs there one time. And it's just a really nice hike. I think it's less than a mile long to get up to the lake, but it's a really enjoyable walk. So then the next day, we're gonna get underway and head out more of Beam Canal into Yes Bay, but we'll do a couple little side jaunts along the way.
first place that's kind of cool to go to is another long fjord off into the east there, into the mountains. It's called Walker Cove. That's what that first little blue mark is, to go back in there, and then we'll come back out and keep going up towards Yes Bay.
And you can see that on the left-hand side, you can see that marker up there in the upper left-hand corner.
Also, before we get even out of Rudyard Bay, there's a really cool little back bay in there that you can get to going through this really narrow little passage.
And it's also really beautiful back there. Lots of waterfalls, lots of high peaks. And another spot that we've seen bears pretty regularly back there as well. And this is in Walker Cove, which is that next fjord up there. It's a wonderful spot to stop for possibly some kayaking, or there's a really nice skiff ride that we can do that goes up into a river. And here's some images along the way.
Last year, 2 years ago,
Mhm.
when we were there, it was April, it was May by then. It was
Barely May.
first couple days of May, and it had actually snowed in the last week and a half or so prior to us being there. So there was actually snow sitting on the beach at sea level in May.
Yeah.
It was nice and cozy on board the David B. And then we went out and took a skiff ride way back up a river in there at Walker Bay, and it was amazing. There was like a fog rising up from the snow that was in amongst the trees. It was just a very pretty spot.
Yeah, and it really gave Misty Fjords the feel of Misty and Fjords.
Yeah.
And it was somewhat of an unusual year. It was a really heavy snow year that year. And right in front of where the boat was anchored in that picture, there's a mud flat there. And this is a really nice mud flat where bears do come down and do some clamming. And this was a mother who had 3 cubs with her, and she was teaching them the fine art of digging clams.
What's interesting
Go back.
in that picture is actually the one bear to the right is doing, that cub is doing all of its own work digging. The other cub kept trying to go over where the mother was digging and not have to do the work. And she kept having to push him or her away to try to get them to do their own work digging. It was really fun to watch. It went on for an hour or more.
Yeah. As part of that skiff ride too, there's a number of different types of birds that you can see there. These are just a couple mergansers that were watching us as we skipped by. And then this is taken in Yes Bay. And so this is as we've left Walker Cove, we've gone up over the top of Revillagigedo Island and into Yes Bay. And there's a little bit of bushwhacking that we can do there. There's a trail that's grown a little bit over, and it's a great spot to kind of get up close to some more of those skunk cabbage, to see the moss, and then also walk up to a different ecosystem, which this is a wetland that has a lot of peat moss type in there, and then some grasses, and it's also home to one of my favorite plants in Southeast Alaska, which is sundew. It's a carnivorous plant that is teeny tiny, eats like little small midges and things, or consumes little small midges and things, and it's just a really fun plant to go look for. And there's also animals like a western toad. Yes Bay is also a beautiful spot for kayaking and skiff riding. There's a bunch of little islands that will be anchored around, and to get into it, there's another narrow passage that we chug on through, and it opens up into a big bowl that is just a really, really beautiful, quiet location. And again, another spot that we often in the springtime have seen bears.
And this is my favorite bear shot.
Yes, yes, we discussed that. So then the following day, the 4th day, we'll be going down from Yes Bay down to a place called Port Stuart, which is a slightly different feel. It has less of the fjord-like thing, so we'll be out of the fjord areas and then into a more open space.
This day is also a little bit shorter day in terms of travel time, which will give us more time either in the morning in Yes Bay for kayaking or hiking or something, or in the afternoon, it'll give us more time in Port Stuart to wander around there.
So here's the anchorage in Port Stuart. It's a nice lower area. It's got a really nice spot to get into the skiff and get ashore and go wander around. This picture is another bear that because spring is a really great time for bears, that was out there sniffing for clams one morning, and it was just a really beautiful, beautiful, calm, still morning. We've got that beautiful reflection of the bear kind of keeping his nose to the ground, and just getting to watch it was really, really special. And then ashore there's some nice, it's not really tide pooling, but there's a lot of interesting things that you can find on the beach there. So here's a sea star next to what looks like a clam hole to me. So, you know, clams dig down in the water, and then their siphons kind of are sitting up there, filter feeding the water as it goes by. But at low tide, you can kind of find them. And then you walk over a spit, and there's this just beautiful wide open mud flat that at low tide you can walk around and just kind of explore a little bit. Lots of birds are in there, and then at high tide it's also fun. We've gone for a skiff ride over the mud flats in the high tide.
Last day, we leave out of Port Stuart and head to Ketchikan. This picture is a group of humpback whales that we saw along that section of the journey at one point. I always like on our trips that we tell people not to pack up all their stuff the night before the trip ends, because we really want to get to enjoy the full last day of the trip. And so the last day, day 5, is a full day, and we'll probably go for a hike in the morning, just in terms of the amount of time we have, and go, you know, a walk on the beach or something, and then we'll head in towards Ketchikan. So
And
here's
so
what
there's
what that looks like. It's also kind of a shorter day of motoring, which will give us more time in the morning to do some stuff.
Yeah.
We've made it all the way around the island.
Yeah, that was fast, huh? So yeah, and one of the things that definitely we'll be looking for and spending time with was, we showed you that other picture of the whales, but this is a really, really nice spot for searching for whales, and we've seen them there a lot of times. So one of the things we didn't do last week, but I think because this is a shorter number of days, is we decided that we would spend a little more time focused on the boat, because many people haven't seen the boat and they haven't traveled with us before. So here's a little bit of a insight on what the boat is like.
So the staterooms that are listed there, we have 3 that have almost as big as a queen size bed, and then 1 that has bunk beds. And the bunk beds are actually extra long bunk beds. Everybody has their own sink and toilet. And also there's lots of electrical outlets and that kind of stuff in there. And then also our electricity, we have a generator running, or we have an inverter at night. So we do have power all the time. And people often ask about water and showers and that kind of stuff. And we have a water maker that makes water, seawater, into drinking water. And so we have lots of water and that kind of stuff. So we don't have any restrictions on people taking showers if they want to.
Yeah, so I kind of outlined out here that there are 4 common areas that people spend a lot of their time in on the boat. One is the pilot house. The next one is the saloon, which is sort of in the middle of the boat. And then down in the galley, which is down in the galley, on the back of the boat is where the galley is. And then on the outside decks, there's the upper deck and the side decks, and then up on the foredeck. And so I'm going to just go through some pictures here to give you a feel of what the boat looks like on the inside.
This is the pilot house. Christine's looking at me because I need to talk about it, apparently. This is the pilot house. And here's looking the other way from that same spot, looking from the wheel back. There's 2 big seats in the pilot house, one for like 3 people, and then the other one for like 1 and 3/4 of a person. But we built them so they have a great view out the pilot house windows. They're actually high enough up that you can, sitting in that seat, you can see the same view that I see when I'm standing there driving the boat. And it's nice, people can be up there, and if I spot something, we can see it right away. We're right up there in the front.
This section of the boat we call the saloon, and it's a really nice spot for just gathering or relaxing. I see people reading, staring out the window, journaling, napping, so all sorts of stuff. It's really comfortable. On the right-hand side of that picture, you can see we do have a little propane fireplace that makes it extra cozy on cooler days or drizzly days. And we have a really good library full of all sorts of information about Southeast Alaska, the Inside Passage, San Juan Islands, and all of those books are there for you to go through and look through. I happen to be a field guide junkie, and so I have lots of wonderful field guides for us to paw through as we come ashore. We can go look up plants that we haven't seen before, look up animals, tide pool critters. So that makes it a really fun spot to be in. And then moving towards the back of the boat is the galley, and you may or may not know, all the food is cooked on a wood cook stove, and I do a lot of baking and a lot of stuff on the stove, so it's a super comfortable, warm spot to be, and always enjoy it when people are down there and with me in the galley. And you can see the settee back there is also a great spot if you wanted to sit back and watch the world go by. Here's another picture of the stove and what it looks like. And then last year, we put in a new station for coffee and hot drinks. So that's always there. I always tell people that coffee is ready sometime between 5:30 and 6. And so if you're up, you're an early bird, please do come and join me. I really like that time together.
So this is starting down below. From the edge of the saloon, you can go down a set of stairs that take you down to the area down below. That other picture, you were looking into the forward head or bathroom. That one has a cast iron bathtub and also a sink and a toilet. Here's kind of the edge of the cast iron bathtub and water tank up there. And then the first cabin, as you go back from that, this is the Kita cabin, and it has the 2 bunk beds. And then in that picture, the door was open into the head. There is a door that separates that spot, but it's open so you can see in there. And then if you turn around right in that same spot, this is what it looks like. There's also a little sink right there. And that's the end of those 2 bunks. Then the next cabin back has the almost queen size bed and their own little head connected to it.
Yeah, the red door, there's the head to that, and then there's right next to where the flowers are, that's where the sink is in that cabin.
And the next one back has the same kind of arrangement. Their sink is actually in the head with the toilet. The door's open there as well. And then also an almost queen size bed. Oops. And then
and I apologize, I forgot to put the other cabin in.
Okay.
I thought it was in there.
There's a 4th one. And it also has
somewhere in here. Yeah, that also has a it was in there earlier, I think. Yeah. So anyhow.
And then if you go up on the upper deck, there is lots of space up there to hang out. This is looking at our skiff and our stack of kayaks, but there's also a space up ahead of that where there's 2 nice seats that you can sit in that face forward on the highest most deck above the pilot house. And all that's easy to access. You can just go up a set of stairs in the back deck and go up to that.
And then because we talked a little bit about the galley and there were questions, there's often questions about food. I thought I'd spend a little bit of time talking about the menu. So again, everything's pretty much made from scratch on the wood cook stove. I do like to bake a lot. Turns out brown bear and black bear here like cranberry orange scones. I can accommodate most dietary issues so long as I know about it ahead of the trip, and I may occasionally call you and ask you if something will work or not, because it's, you know, it's a small space. We can't run to the grocery store, and I just want to make sure that I have everybody well fed. And that being said, I don't think anybody has ever gone hungry on the boat. So this is a quiche that I'd made one morning. It's a tomato and excuse me, Dungeness crab quiche, and that was a breakfast item. Some more crab. We do a lot of crabbing, and this is a tomato bisque with some fresh crab caught that morning, and bread that I'd bake, sourdough.
We are able to crab when we're in Alaska, and so we set our crab traps in the evening and then haul them in the morning oftentimes. And the springtime before the commercial crab season has opened actually is a very good time for us to be successful at our crabbing. Later in the summer, it's a little bit harder to catch very much because the commercial crabbers clean out a lot of the available crab. But this is all crab that was caught on somebody's crab license while we were on the boat.
And then these are halibut cakes. We had a lot of halibut one time from leftover from a dinner that I had made, and we don't do any halibut fishing, just so you know. But some halibut that I had, and made some halibut cakes, some homemade tartar sauce, a nice salad to go that, and that would be a kind of one of our lunches that we occasionally do. A lot of lunches are soups and salads, and then cookies are pretty common. Ginger cookies, triple ginger cookies. And this is a fairly typical dinner. This is fresh homemade pasta with locally caught scallops and pesto, spinach pesto. And then, of course, sourdough bread. I love to bake bread. So there's pretty much always bread, lunch and dinner for sure, and then a pastry in the morning. And if anybody gets hungry sort of mid-afternoon, appetizers are a pretty common thing, sometime in that 5 to 6 hour range. And then getting into here's another dinner. This is a king salmon with string zucchini and some pearl couscous.
And aren't those
oh yeah, and those are kelp pickles from Barnacle Seafood
on top of it?
Yeah. And then Jeffrey.
Every trip, the last morning, Christine always makes croissants from scratch. It's kind of one of those wonderful things that you know is coming, but it also signals the end of the trip.
Yeah. So we thought we would leave you there with the croissants and move into the question and answer part of the evening.
Yeah, and I wanted to also at this point share another poll with our participants to see what some of your interests were given the presentation we just made. And then also if you have any questions, type them into the chat. So I've just opened up the poll. So hopefully you guys can take a look at that and just see what are you interested in. Are you looking at the fjords, the glaciers, all the bears on the beach, Christine's pastry basket? Feel free to answer those. I will leave that open for a minute. I do have one question already from Lisa. She was asking about what are the cabin names and what side of the boat are they on? So do you guys want to answer that, or do you want me to answer?
Sure.
Yeah.
The one that has the 2 bunk beds is the Keta cabin, Keta. It's a type of salmon. And then the next one back, also on the port side, is the Chinook cabin. And then behind that is the sockeye cabin. And then on the starboard side of the boat, that cabin is the coho. So they're all 2-person cabins. The sockeye, Chinook, and coho have the beds that are just a couple inches shy of being queen size width.
Okay, great. And everybody who's participating, feel free to type in some more questions. I'm going to close out this poll here. Looks like pretty much everybody has participated. I'm going to end the poll here. Looks like Misty Fjords, this was a multiple choice where people could select more than one answer, but we have multiple choice. Pretty much everybody wants to see the Misty Fjords. Whales and bears on the beach are pretty popular, but skiff rides, as well as hanging out with Jeffrey and Christine's pastry basket, all seem to be very popular. So thank you so much for participating in that. So here's the poll results, and I'll just stop sharing that. And then
Go ahead.
I don't have any other questions at this time. Is there anything else you want to add to your presentation?
I was just going to say that Misty Fjords is a national monument. It was land that was part of the Forest Service land up there that was part of the Tongass National Forest. And the trip that we're going to go on will be partially in the national monument and partially in, and all the rest of it will be in the national forest. And what's interesting is that that national monument was created, it was carved out of that spot. And because of that, partly because of that, the Forest Service is still in charge of it. So it's all kind of Forest Service. It's all part of the Tongass, even though that is technically a separate jurisdiction there.
And it's a wilderness area, which one of the nice things about it being a wilderness area, that means that big groups don't go into Misty Fjords or can't go ashore in Misty Fjords. So because we're limited to up to 8 passengers, we're under that 12-person group size that are in wilderness areas in the national forest.
Yeah, so it's pretty nice
yeah.
hike in there.
Yeah, and I think, that's part of the appeal of the David B for sure, is that we can go places where the big ships can't. So I have a few more questions in the chat room from Joan. We have, is Misty Fjords a good place to get crab? And should I get a license? She's asking. And certainly we do provide information about getting crab licenses for passengers about a week or so before the trip. But why don't you guys answer about crabbing in general and Misty Fjords in particular?
We've had good luck crabbing there, especially in the spring. And we've also been there at times and seen other people have really good luck.
Yeah, we had somebody bring us up.
We had somebody bring us crab.
Yeah.
We won't tell anybody, but they said they had way too many for their limit. And so they were getting rid of some of them by giving them away to us.
Yeah. Maybe we shouldn't have said that.
Yeah, we won't say who it was.
No.
But yeah, there are a couple places in there that we have gone to where the crabbing has been really good.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you never know with crabbing. It's always a gamble.
Yeah.
Right. Few more questions. All right. So this is with regards to packing and what should you bring. I mean, certainly there's asking about rain pants plus a good rain jacket. And I'm glad that that this question includes rain pants, because that's actually one of the things that I often recommend to people to pack. Everybody thinks about raincoats, but rain pants are really good, whether you're in a skiff ride, whether you're kayaking. If we were seeing glaciers on this trip, necessarily the glacier wind is pretty brisk. So rain pants are also a good thing. And then my favorite thing to bring on the David B, I mean, now that you've seen some of the interior photos, is I often recommend indoor-outdoor slippers. That's my David B hack, if you will, because that way you can be nice and cozy and we don't require special shoes or anything on the boat. And then if some whale is feeding and bubble netting right next to the boats, and even if we're at anchor, you can just head on outside and take a look at the wildlife, but then you've got your indoor outdoor slippers on. So that's my recommendation. Anything else? What do you guys like to recommend people bring?
I think things that people might not think about is lightweight gloves. Ones that are waterproof are kind of nice for sitting in the skiff and going for skiff rides or kayaking. That's another place people sometimes like to have gloves. Nice hat that keeps your ears warm. And I think, yeah, the rain pants and raincoat is really nice, especially because it helps to cut down on wind, especially doing those skiff rides when you're in the kayaks, that kind of stuff. So, or even on like a nice sunny day, sometimes it's like wet ashore, so it's good to have something that's waterproof. And layers, lots of layers.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. There's a follow-up question about the going ashore boots. Yes, we definitely still provide those. We ask people for their boot sizes, and then that way we have them set aside. And we have a nice boot station in the back now.
Yeah, we have a special bench that we built back there with a little cubby for each person to store their boots in, and that way we keep all the muddy boots outside. And I was gonna say with the rain pants that's the rain pants, and especially with the rain jacket on, if it's even on the nicest, sunniest day, if you're outside in the breeze, that allows you to be comfortable up on the upper deck. And we often have people that go and sit up there for hours, but that definitely is good. Also, we have a bunch of stuff covered, like you don't have to worry about bringing bug spray because we have bug spray. It's not real time that bugs would be bad, and in general in Southeast Alaska bugs aren't an issue, but we do have that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
All right, I have one more question. How many people on the call have been on one of these trips before? I would say this call, as well as last time, about 3/4 of the participants have been on trips previously. So we're very lucky and grateful to have people who've been on the David B before continue to come back. But we're also excited to offer these new trips, hopefully with the intent of getting some other folks who haven't been on the David B before to join us in either in 2023 or 2024. If there are any other questions, I was going to actually just do my last poll here before we open things up. And that was just kind of asking people, if you're interested in coming on the David B, what would be your timing? So I'm just going to launch that last little poll. We have our schedule, and I can also include in the chat the link to our schedule. Let's just do that to everybody who, just in case you don't have that there. Feel free to take a look at that. Obviously, if you're not sure, that's fine too. That's why we offer this live Zoom event. And I'm really grateful Christine was able to add pictures of our cabins and the interior so that you can kind of get a feel for it. A couple other things that I wanted to just say, if you're in the Pacific Northwest area, we do have an open boat scheduled in April. It's usually the weekend before the David B heads north. It's going to be the weekend of April 15th and 16th. And so if you're in the area, we hope you'll consider joining us for that. And Jeffrey and Christine, do you want to talk about our next Zoom live event?
Yes, our next Zoom event is going to be on February 1st, and that's going to highlight our photography workshops. And so joining us will be, of course, we'll have me and Sarah and Jeffrey, but John and Al, who are our photography instructors, are going to be here too to answer questions about what it's like to be on the boat during a photography workshop and all the fun things that we get to do there and how it's different from a regular trip that we have. And so our photography trips are generally we have two areas that we do it in: Glacier Bay National Park and the sort of Tracy Arm Fjords Terra area. And then we have some in the San Juan Islands as well. So they'll be on hand for that. And we're looking forward to one more Zoom event until our season starts in April.
Just wanted to share the results from the poll. Looks like we had it split 3 ways. We've got of the participants, about a third want to join us in 2023, a third in 2024, and a third who aren't sure at this time, and that's totally fine. So I'm just going to close those out. Any last questions before we kind of end the official part of our presentation? And then what we were going to do is after that, open it up a little bit for more social time, anything more casual than that. Joan is saying she's going in May 2023. She's very excited about that, and we're excited to have her.
Yay.
And with that, I think that's it. Is there anything else that you guys want to add before I open it up?
No, I think we're all good.
Okay, well, thank you so much for joining it. At this point, I'm going to turn off the spotlight. So with the sharing, you can turn on your videos and with that, otherwise, thank you so much for joining. Happy New Year, happy Merry Christmas, happy holidays, and we hope to see you in the new year.
Hello.
All right, I'm turning off the spotlight right now. Hopefully everybody can start there.
Yes, I see familiar faces.
Yeah.
Lots of them.
And let's see here. I think
Hello.
that's it.
Yes. Actually, I am not Susan, despite
I was
the
Oh, yeah,
computer is
so
in her name, and she signed up.
Yes.
yeah,
But actually,
okay.
she is
Fair
in
enough.
South Carolina, helping one of our daughters.
Oh, great. Yeah. Well, good to see you. It's been a while, huh?
Yeah, she was here last week, but
Mhm.
she's in South Carolina now.
Oh, great.
Only comment about the pronunciation of the island.
Yes.
Yes.
The Spanish pronunciation is probably never used in Ketchikan, but it'd be Revillagigedo.
Oh, yeah.
And that's probably why it's never
Yeah.
used.
It's the same sound like in Jose, but
Right.
Revillagigedo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is the name of I think the viceroy of New Spain in 1790.
Yeah. There are a number of things all up and down the coast named for him. And yeah, so you see his name all over the place. He had a very long name, like
Yeah.
typical Spanish name that had all these other last name parts in it.
Yeah, I think
You can spout it out.
I think
No, I
Guemas
can't.
Guemas and Padilla, like Padilla Bay, are both
Yep.
part of his
Uh-huh.
name. Yeah.
Yep.
Something to
Or
Orcasitas.
Orcasitas.
Orcasitas, which is
And-
the
Yeah.
source for Orcas Island.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, so there's definitely a lot of is Lopez one of
No,
in there?
that's a
No, I
different
don't think
one.
that was in there. Yeah.
but yeah.
Hello, Joan. It's good to see you. And you're muted.
Oh, here, let me unmute yourself.
Yes. We had somebody come up on a big, huge sailing yacht
Who
on
knew
our
you?
way south, who knew you, and came up next to us to say that they knew you.
I think Joan,
it-
you're,
Was it Wendy Hinman? No,
No,
No?
no, it was,
you know her.
yes, I definitely know Wendy. It was a really, really big boat.
It was a big sailing yacht,
And
and
it was-
like with kind of big enough to have paid crew looking, and they came by specifically to tell us that they knew you and that you somehow had been sailing with them.
Yes.
Was it a guy?
It was a guy, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I bet it was a guy that I know from California by the name of Tim. I bet you anything it was him.
Uh-huh.
Because
Yeah.
I'd raced with this guy way back, and then he was determined to go sail around the world and became a skipper and was all over the world, captaining one big huge yacht. And then I know that he was on a different one that came back and ended up in Anacortes. And I think he's given that sort of thing up, but I bet it was him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we
Yeah.
keep in touch with the different things we do. Yeah,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
yeah. I bet that's who it was. Yeah.
It was funny
That's
too.
wild. I gotta ask him.
Yeah.
It was funny too, because they came up and passed us relatively close and like going the same direction. They overtook us. And I was kind of surprised that somebody was getting that close. And but then they came by to tell us about that. So
I'll have to ask. I haven't heard that story, but that's the only one that comes to my mind right now.
yeah, it
Yeah.
was southbound in southbound just off of Prince Rupert.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I bet you don't remember the name of the craft, do you?
No,
I
Okay,
want to say it had a blue hull, a dark blue.
I bet that was it.
it was fun.
Yeah.
I bet. That's interesting. Yeah. Your name gets around.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited. Fred, like I said, I talked to a friend of mine from California into signing up too. And I
Oh,
know she'll
great,
love it.
Good.
Yeah.
great. That'll be
Yeah.
fun. Oh, I'm so excited.
Yeah, it'd be great. Good fun. I couldn't stay away. I have become kind of addicted to Alaska. I was up in Juneau for 2 weeks in the end of September.
Oh, nice. That's
Because a
good
friend of mine asked me if I wanted to come and house sit for somebody
Mhm.
who was their son-in-law's parents
Uh-huh.
and house sit and dog sit on Davis or
Mhm.
Douglas
Doug-
Island.
Douglas Island, nice.
Douglas. And it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
It was awesome. So I got to be kind of a local. Yeah.
Yeah, oh, that's fun. Yeah, I like Douglas a lot, especially the was it the Douglas Island pub? We go there a lot for pizza.
Yeah. Yeah. I was real close to that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was great. Got to
Yeah.
go places other
Mhm.
tourists wouldn't go, It was good.
Yeah,
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 it's
yeah.
good.
There's some nice trails on Douglas too. We like to.
Yeah,
Do
there's
that.
right from town, like you can walk out on a couple of the city streets
Mhm.
within like 10 blocks of what's sort of the little downtown area of Douglas,
Yeah.
but 8
Right.
blocks, and be on a trail and, almost in the wilderness
Mhm.
back in there.
Yeah.
Lots of
Yeah.
old mining stuff back in there too.
Yeah. Yeah. I walked down through there one day, the Treadwell mine stuff.
Mhm.
And one
Yeah.
day we drove out to the other end of the island and went mushrooming for chanterelles. It was just-
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
yeah.
Yeah, that would have been the
Yeah.
right time of year for that.
yeah, it was good fun. So yeah. So I'm anxious to go back.
Good,
Nice.
good. Well, we
Yeah.
look forward to seeing you.
I look forward to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to tell you, Meg and I ran into somebody in a store the other day who said that they were working as a deckhand on the Alaskan Song
Uh-huh.
the very first year you operated.
Yes.
Oh, very
And
cool.
they dressed up as pirates and boarded the David B. and
Yeah.
you had a great time together.
Yes.
I didn't
yeah.
know you'd been boarded. That
We,
does- I-
yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Boarded by pirates. Yeah. Bearing champagne, I believe.
Oh, yeah, I think she mentioned that as well. It seemed kind
Yeah.
of backwards for
Yeah.
pirates somehow,
Right.
but
Yeah.
That's kind of the pirate logic though, right?
Yeah.
You board somebody and then you bring them champagne.
Yeah.
yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah, that story's in the book too. So that was fun.
Mhm.
Well, I
thank-
think, yeah, I was gonna say, if there's any other questions, I mean, I think it's been really great to have these events and thank you so much for everybody who's participated. Up, there's a boat.
Can you see that? Was it that boat?
Oh, how big is it? Is it like over 100 feet?
Probably 100.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that was-
that was
that's all the way-
probably it. Yeah.
That's fun.
I
Yeah.
can send this to you. I bet that's who it was. It's gotta be,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
yeah,
great.
Heliodor. Heliodor.
Oh, yeah,
yeah,
that
That
sounds familiar.
was it. That was it.
That's gotta be it. That's all I can think of. It's somebody that I know that would be in a boat like that. So anyway, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ah, that
Very
was
cool.
that
Okay.
mystery song.
Yeah, I bet you that's it. Bet you anything.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fun. I'll have to bug him. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
It's fun
thanks
seeing you.
everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks everybody for listening.
Yeah, that was nice, and thanks for spending this hour with us, and maybe you guys will show up on the next one. And I think this is something we're gonna keep doing, and if interest keeps on with it, we'll do more of them in the fall next year, and a couple more, 1 or 2 more before we start up this year. And if we're lucky, maybe we'll even sneak one in during
From
the
the
summer.
summer.
Yeah.
That would be really fun.
That would be
Dare to
fun.
dream.
Yes.
I look forward to the photography Zoom call. Thank you for doing
Mhm.
this.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That one will be fun too, because John and Al are a kick. So that'll be a fun Zoom.
See you guys later.
Yeah. All
All right,
right. Take care.
Bye.
All right,
Thank
bye.
you
Thank
so
you,
much.
Lisa. Thank you. Thank you, Neil.
right.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
All right,
All right.
thank
Take
you.
care. All
All
right.
right,
Bye-bye.
take care.
Bye.
Bye.